Welcome to Babe, Take a Seat. I'm your host, Jeanine. If you've landed here, you're probably feeling overwhelmed and maybe a little unsure of your next steps. I've been just where you are now, and it's time to radically change the way women experience life after divorce, life change, and loss. Welcome to Babe, Take a Seat. I'm your host, Jeanine, and I help women pivot with intention during life changes and transitions. I have a very special guest today, Jen Revak. She's a good friend of mine, and she is an amazing professional cookie artist. I want to have her introduce herself at this point, but I just want to say, Jen, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. I'm super excited to have you, and I love talking with you and having conversations. And I can't wait to see what comes up today because we're going to talk about you, and we're going to talk about my book, When Shit Goes Sideways. And I can't wait to dive in. I love talking with you.
Yes, likewise, my friend. So let's go.
All right, let's do it. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? I'm going to have all of your links in the bio because if somebody, I think everybody needs to taste your cookies. They're beyond cookies, but I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Yeah. So throughout my life, I've never wanted to do anything else. I really started from the bottom and now we're here, as the Drake song goes. I always say that. But at 14, I worked as a dishwasher, and I always knew that I wanted to work in the kitchen because I thought it was so beautiful to watch and beautiful to experience. It was like choreographed madness, which was music to my soul. It fed me. So I've always done it since I was 14, went to college for it. I have a dual degree in culinary arts and then baking. Um, yeah, so I've never wanted to do anything else. I educated myself. Then I ended up just working, never worked anywhere else besides being in hotels or kitchens. So, yes, so I've always worked in kitchens, never wanted to do anything else. My goal was always, no matter what I did in life, I wanted to be the best in that category. So whether it was washing dishes or being a line cook or making salads, I was going to be the best in that group. So that has always been my philosophy. Um, so I just ended up working at the best places in the cities that I lived in. And then after that, I decided to go, I applied to go on Hell's Kitchen. I did that. Then after that, a ton of things came. I started my own business after the show aired. I got offered to do a local baking show on a local television show, which was really nice after it was named Jentastic Sweets. So
That's
a lot of
awesome.
things, yeah, came after that. So, and now
I love how you just blew right over. I was on Hell's Kitchen, and then I had my own TV show.
No, I don't want to listen, Jeanine, you know me, right? Here's the thing. It's like I'm so grateful for the opportunities and they were great. But I have to
Yeah,
say, I don't think I've ever been happier than I am now in my life. All those things were
that's
great and
amazing.
they led me to here. So it's not that I mean to blow over it. It's a part of my life. And there are a lot of great things that came from that, but also a lot of challenges and a lot of
Yeah.
things to learn, which is why
Yes.
I enjoyed the book so much because um, I just feel it
Yay.
spoke to my soul. So there you go.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So before we jump into that, because I really want to ask
Oh,
you like about the seven secrets and things, but tell just a little bit more about where you are now, because now you've got
oh,
Jentastic Sweets,
yes.
and
Okay. Yeah, I sort of kind of glossed over everything, didn't I? Perhaps. But
that's okay. You're more than a cookie artist, so I just want like everyone to know.
okay. Okay. You're so sweet. So, yeah, so where I am now, I have a little cookie business. It is, but it's growing and it's out of my home. So, as you can see, everything I do is here in my home and it's a cookie business, but I reach people through the art of my work. I said that when I did business, I wanted to be really good at one thing. That all ties back to being the best at whatever I was in that moment. So um, that's, I want to reach people through my art, because I've always said, Jeanine, it's way more to me than just a cookie. Like it's
Yeah.
an experience, an extension of myself. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's really important to me. No matter like the business and making money is great, but at the end of the day, for me, it's just reaching people through that. It's a connection through food, which is so beautiful,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I do. Yes, I know. It's as soon as you say that, I think of like, so as you know, because you know me, I think the most important things in life are your relationships and love and joy
Yes.
and hope. It's not the things, it's not amassing stuff. It's just the relationships, like when we are, how and who we move through the world with. And when you say food, I think like meals to me brings me back to my childhood when my mother would cook meals and the house would smell so good. And my favorite times with my kids are when they're either helping me cook, prepare,
Yeah.
or even just sitting in the kitchen and talking to me while I do it. That is
Yes.
the best. Our happiest
Mhm.
memories are making pasta on Christmas Eve, things like, it's just everything in my world is around food.
I know, and I feel like it's the common thread
Yeah,
for so many people, you know, and it's really beautiful. It's
it
really
is.
beautiful.
Totally random, Jen, but have you seen the movie like Water for Chocolate?
Yes, I have Matt when I was
Oh,
dating Matt, because Matt hired me. Matt, my husband, is also a chef. So when
uh-huh.
I worked back in PA, he hired me. So that was one of the first movies we ever watched together. And
Honestly, it's one
he
of my favorite.
yes, he loves it. So and I
Oh,
watched it in culinary school too. So
oh,
yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah, I just
I
love the
know.
idea of, and I believe it, that you just pour your heart and your energy and your love into it. I mean, there obviously I get the energy part too, but it's just pouring yourself into the food and the way. That's my favorite part of that movie.
I know. Mhm.
Yay! All right, I'll be clipping that
Sorry.
out. No, no, that was me. So yeah, so tell me. I'm so glad you read my book. I'm so honored. If anyone hasn't read
Listen.
it yet, it's called When Shit Goes Sideways.
Hello. Yeah.
Ooh, quick. Now, people who are listening are like, what the hell are they doing? I'm showing
Listen.
the book cover, and so is Jen.
You must
Thank you
read
so
it,
much for reading it.
everybody. Like you
I,
must.
I appreciate it. I haven't actually talked about the book on any of the podcasts. So I know, isn't that kind of crazy? So I wrote this book several years ago, and it was a lot of years in the making. It's When Shit Goes Sideways, Soul Centered Navigation for Life. And I wrote it. I knew that after my son died, 18 years ago now, that I wanted to write a book about my experience, not just the experience of that of him and his birth and death, but how I navigated out. So it took me a lot of years to do it. I didn't want it to be a just focused on life and death. I wanted it to be focused on how do we navigate through these ups and downs in our life. And it sort of came together as my 7 secrets to survive life change and loss that I've actually used all of my life. And it got me reflecting back to a time when I was literally 8 years old, when I sort of remember that was the first time I started understanding the world the way that I understand it, between the physical and the metaphysical, and all that woo woo side of me. So anyway, for
Yes.
anyone who's just listening, when shit goes sideways, that's what we're talking about.
Mm.
Thank you for reading it. I love talking with you
Oh,
about it. I love to hear like what resonated, and what specific part resonated with you the most. Let's talk about that. How about that?
okay. I just want to say to all your listeners, listen. So I am not an avid reader, right? I choose things that speak to me. So I'm gonna be completely transparent. I had this book for a smidge of a while, right? No, I have, right? I mean, let's be real. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, right?
I
Right? Okay,
appreciate the honesty.
yeah, right. Yes. Okay. I had it for a smidge. It's been sitting there, and so when things speak to me is when I pick it up and I'm like, okay, let's go. You know.
Yeah.
So when I was reading this, things that happened in my life up to this point, like it spoke to me, and the
Nice.
intuition part I believe like everyone has intuition, right? But you're not
Yeah.
sure sometimes if you should listen to it or trust it but when I was reading this book, it validated so many different things that I was feeling in my life that it was okay, you know? Um, God, there were so many good nuggets. I mean, what is that, dog-eared tagged or whatever you
Mhm.
call it, but I saved a few that spoke to me the most so that when I was feeling those feelings ever again, I can revert back to it and like, okay, it's all good. So for
Yeah.
me, the biggest thing that hit me after reading this book that you touched on was that it's okay.
Mhm.
You trust it, that the universe is telling you things for real.
Mhm.
Like it's not, it's for real, you know?
Yeah.
And everything I've done in my life, Jeanine, there was always this fire in my belly. It's like you couldn't escape it, right? It was always a yes to something, even though it was terrifying or
Yeah.
in the moment it didn't make sense to you or to some other people. You just got to
Yes.
jump sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to read it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
I love that. I'm so glad. I love that you say that. Like that. Yeah, it's that fire in your belly that drives
mm,
you. And the key of like following your intuition is you don't have to explain it to anybody else. It doesn't even need to make sense to anyone else, and likely it won't, because
right,
sometimes it doesn't even make sense to you. You just know it to be true. You know it to
right.
be the right move. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and that does take a whole lot of trust in yourself.
Yes. And
It's sort of
yeah,
it's really faith.
yes. I just felt I completed this book in a matter of 2 or 3 days. More normally it would take me like a long time, people, to read a book. Like I'm just like not one of those people. Although I try, but I couldn't put it down, Jeanine. Like it was,
Nice.
and I have shouted this thing out on my social, like seriously, and it's in my arsenal. You talk about having an arsenal of tools.
Yeah.
Mm. And this is one of them, my friends.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's really too interesting how, when we're in different phases of our life, we are experiencing even the same thing differently, because well, first of all, you've grown, right? Every day we're expanding and growing. We
Yeah.
should be, at least in some way.
Right.
um,
Mhm.
and we are looking at things and understanding things from a different perspective. Then you've also got all of that subconscious programming that we have running in the
Mm.
background, and how that sort of is the way we're viewing our world and ourselves and the people around us. And so when we are experiencing different shifts, or we're needing to revisit what are your secrets to surviving life change, you're going to experience it differently next year than you did this year. So
Mhm.
it's, as soon as you kind of, whether someone follows my idea of my 7 secrets to survive or has their own list, knowing that you can revisit them over and over. Like, life is constant forward motion. That was a quote that was actually written by a woman who followed my ex-husband and I around the year after Max died.
Oh.
She followed because I was pregnant with Matilda. I digress a bit, but I was pregnant with Matilda very quickly after she came. Actually, she was born a year and a day after Max passed away. Um,
Mm.
and one of the things that she wrote about was like, life is forward motion. And I use that
Mhm.
all the time. It has to be. We have to sort of lean into it. Anyway,
Yeah.
experiencing things differently.
Mhm.
So yeah, I love that you're gonna like that you have that idea of revisiting things.
Oh yeah. I have to for my own sanity, you know?
Yeah. So have you always trusted your intuition like that? Have you always known that that feeling in your gut was your intuition or your inner guidance system?
For certain big things in my life, I have trusted it. I didn't know why or how. Big things. For
Yeah.
instance, when I first went to college in Philadelphia and I wanted to stay down there and work, it was terrifying for me. I was 2.5 hours away. But in my gut, I knew I had to stay there to grow, to get the things under my belt for my career that I needed, even though I didn't want to. I just knew that those experiences would catapult me to
Hmm.
where I eventually wanted to be. So that was the first
Mm-hmm.
one. The second
Wow.
one was when Hell's Kitchen came. And I'll never forget, I was working out in my living room. I just sent an email to the casting people on Hell's Kitchen, and they're like, okay, great, you want to try out or audition for this thing? There's casting calls in New York, California, Las Vegas, this time, this address. And I was thinking to myself, what am I doing? Like, I'll never get on there. I'll never get on. Jeanine, please. I'll never get on there. And I was scheduled to work on the day that they were doing all these interviews. I just got the job with Matt. Huh? So
Wow.
I was like, going to have to call out and make a lie. Right. So I don't tap. Jesus didn't tap and I don't tap either. So like, I was like, not going to call out, but I felt it. This
Yeah.
little tug, like for some reason I had to do it. And that was the second time. And then the third time that I really felt it was moving from Pennsylvania to Arizona. Terrifying. I had a little girl, 3 years old. We had no jobs, no medical insurance, but somehow, and everybody back home was like, "What are you going to do? You don't have health insurance. You don't have a
Right.
job. Are you nuts? You're just going to pick up and move across the country?" And I sure did, because there was that intuitive, yeah, Jeanine, this is what we're saying,
Yeah.
right? You don't need to listen to everybody else. If it feels good and you never know until you try, right?
Yeah.
So I never wanted, I never wanted to say that in my life. What if? And so that intuitive nature of mine, like I was like, I just believe that it might take 5 years, it might take 10 years, but like I believe that this will be the right thing for me. So those were the
That
three
is,
major times. Yeah.
I love it. That's so powerful. I mean, I used to
Yeah.
tease people and be like, so powerful, but it really is so
Listen.
powerful. Not just having the faith in yourself and trusting yourself in that way and kind of, leaning in even when it's scary, but it feels
Right.
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 But, um, oh my God, I just lost my thought. So this is what
Yeah.
it's like to interview with someone
Yeah.
52 years old.
This is this is why we love Jeanine, okay?
Holy
We love Jeanine,
completely.
perimenopause and all. We love
I'm the poster child for like brain fog. Oh, jeez.
yes,
I
yes,
completely forgot
mind
what I
you.
was going to say. Doing it, trusting it, not needing to know. Oh, I can't even
Yeah.
remember. Jen.
Listen.
Um, we'll keep going.
Yep.
Sometimes that's how it happens. You're just like, yeah, it didn't. I could edit it out, but I won't. It's like,
Why?
it's,
Listen. Listen, we love you. Who cares what you know what I mean? That's okay. We know it's all good, you know? I mean,
perfect. I think I was going to say, I had two thoughts in my head, and that's sometimes what confuses me. I've forgotten the first one, but the second one was that there is, I have a mentor, him, Rob, who's amazing. And he said to me the other day, yeah,
oh,
I like beg him to be my mentor forever. But he said something the other day was,
oh,
I needed to hear because I have always been a very kind of black and white person. Like it's right
yeah,
or it's wrong. It's a good decision or a bad
sure.
decision. Unless I'm really following my intuition. And then I don't really care about that kind of by, um, oh my God. I
Listen,
think I need
it's a
2 cups of coffee.
perimenopause. It's a perimenopause.
That's what we're going to
It's,
say. People are going to
listen,
be like,
people.
I'm really fucking
Please.
worried about you, Jeanine. there's no, there's no failure that,
No.
there's just different ways of learning and that it's okay to take that risk because you're gonna learn something. I know what I was gonna say, Jen.
Oh,
When you trust your intuition, when you trust and follow your intuition, even if it doesn't turn out the way you planned,
right.
you are going to, and I will guarantee this, you are going to be okay with it because at least you trusted yourself. And that is a huge guarantee that I'm making to everyone that will listen. If you follow your intuition, even if it doesn't turn out the way you wanted it to or you think it's going to, you will feel resolved in having made that choice. When
Yeah.
we make decisions because other people are telling us to and we're really being influenced by the outside, sometimes it turns out great and we're like, fantastic, glad I did it. And sometimes it's like, oh my God, why didn't I just listen to myself? Having a balance in between is great. And that said,
Yeah.
I like
have to say we have to listen. We don't have to, but it's very good to listen to input. But when you're coming down to making that decision, following your own
Yeah,
gut is so important.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if you fail, who cares? You know what I mean? Then it just didn't shake out. You just got to reroute it. The first time I started Gentastic Sweets, it was a cake business. It was back in PA.
Hmm.
And so that was the first time, my first venture into business, Jeanine. And I thought I had it all mapped out. I thought I was like, yeah, I'm like, this is going to be great. And I was doing every project from brownies to cookies to cakes to everything. I was not a no person.
Yeah.
But then, Jeanine, I soon realized I got burnt out and I had to stop it. I stopped
Hmm.
it. I didn't go back to cakes or cookies or nothing. But I needed to do that because I needed to figure out what I really wanted to do, like to focus on one thing and be really good at that one thing. So if it didn't
Yeah.
fail that first time, I don't think I would be as successful as I am now. You know?
Yeah. I
Does that
do.
make sense?
I do.
Yeah.
I have many of those
Right.
experiences.
So,
I
you
do.
want
It's
to,
true.
you follow the intuition, you quit your job, you start the business, it doesn't shake out. You revamp, restructure, and you get back in it. Like,
Yeah.
you just keep following it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
No, you do know. You
yeah.
do.
Yeah. So that's how I feel about it.
I love it. I think I'm going to
No.
say that a lot this podcast. I love it.
Love it.
So we talked about sort of consciously leaning into your intuition. Um, One of the things that I propose is that your feelings are your flags, the directionals in
Oh,
your life, right? And so when we feel bad and we're feeling those negative emotions, so that's something that we should look at. When we're
mhm.
feeling open and positive and confident, those are signs that you're moving in the right direction. But those negative feelings are also super good directionals, not just in saying perhaps you should move away from that, but in saying maybe you should look at why you're feeling uncomfortable.
Mm.
So moving the idea of moving towards joy, like you are the epitome of joy. That's why I wanted to ask you this question, because I I love just being in your presence. You exude joy and happiness, um, and I think that has so much to do with your heart and just who you are and your outlook. As you know, you've described what your outlook is. Um, I want to ask: do you follow that in your life? Even though I kind of feel like the answer is going to be yes.
It's so funny you say that, Jeanine. About it took me a long time to get here. It wasn't like people who know me in the past. There was a time, a dark period for me
Mm,
when I didn't have a lot of joy. Like I didn't. I ended up seeing a therapist for a year. Nobody was, and to this day, nobody's harder on me than me, you know?
yeah,
Um, but through therapy and just realizing that it doesn't take much to make a happy life, it's taken me a while to get here.
mm,
And people say that now, but I still think back to those times when it was super dark. It was not good, Jeanine. It was not
yeah,
good. Um, which it was just very trying. So I try to carry that in my life now. I journal every day. I try to
hmm,
take care of my mind because I'm a delicate flower, Jeanine. Okay, I just
yeah,
I'm a delicate, you know what I'm saying? So I just try to protect my mind and not
yeah,
take a lot of things so seriously. And that
hmm,
I'm more in the present moment now than I ever did. I worry about the future, but I try not to let my mind go too far in the future. And I can't change the past. I can just be
right,
better today. So
yeah.
I really work hard at that, Jeanine. I haven't always been
And
this way.
yeah, no, that's profound because you have all of that, all of those parts, all of those experiences inside you that help you consciously and subconsciously, live your life the way that you're living it today. And that is really important for people to hear too. Some people
Yeah.
are like, oh, this person is just naturally like this, you might have a tendency, you might have a, tendency to be a joyful person, but you work at it, and
I do.
you have had those contrasting, those
Oh yeah.
fears, those down times. I am super glad that you talked with people you needed to talk with. I don't think enough people go to therapy.
And I have to
My
say, let me
motto.
say this, Jeanine, I hate to interrupt,
Mm, mm,
but my husband was the one that said to me, Jenny, please, you need to do something. I'm like, I'm not crazy. Why do I have to go talk to somebody? And like, that's for crazy people. That's for crazy people. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you what, my therapist like was a godsend. Like he helped me find
yeah,
myself again. And like you said, you have to, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with asking for help, you know?
yeah,
Because as
100%.
you're young, you don't sometimes in family, you don't get those tools. You just don't, you don't get the tools how to talk to yourself. And,
Yeah,
you just don't get that. And it's good to have that objective opinion. So
yeah, it
I don't,
totally is, totally is.
yeah.
I I funny. I'm a proponent of therapy. I love therapy. I
Yes.
think everyone should have
Yeah.
therapy.
Right.
In fact, I've told you my motto in my family is save money for therapy because there are loans for college, and my kids know this, and they're all saving.
Yep.
But yeah, having that independent third party, like if somebody doesn't like the idea of therapy, think of it this way: you've got an independent person who can
Mhm.
bounce, you can bounce shit off of, and they're going to not be personally invested in their response to you, which in and of itself is so valuable. Getting that
Yeah.
feedback, that mirror, that being able to process things, because so many, in my toolbox, therapists are in my toolbox, but also in my toolbox are friends and family that I can really, share my inner thoughts and feelings with. And I also know that they love me and that they want the best for me and that they're
Mhm.
looking through the world in the glasses that they wear and through, their understanding of situations or problems that they may not have even had. So you're dealing with so many different layers that
Mhm.
getting that independent person just can help you shed light on your own self as well. Still talk to family and friends. I'm certainly not saying don't do that. I'm just saying
Right.
that neutral third party is really a sort of
Yeah.
a way I explain to people who are very anti-therapy. It's like it's a neutral third party. Like, oh,
I
sweet.
mean, I was devastated when I was done. It was when I moved. I didn't see him anymore. And I've often thought about getting another one, just when you have bad days or whatever. But it
Yeah,
took me a while to find him, so he has a special place in my heart. So,
yeah,
um, it just was a super dark time, and
yeah.
I was grateful for him. You know?
Good. I'm
Yeah.
glad.
Oh yeah.
How do you use those? How do you? So you just like led into my next question quite
Oh.
beautifully, actually.
Oh, how nice.
So your story of navigating the big ups and downs, it's
Yeah.
powerful. I mean, from
Yeah.
the emotional response to your personal life to your business changes and all of it.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a moment where you found beauty in the contrast and learned a significant lesson from the pain? So you've touched on it, but can you
Mm.
discuss a moment where you found beauty in the contrast and learned a significant lesson from the pain?
So it was probably, I'll just say, the darkest time was
Mm-hmm.
right after Hell's Kitchen. And everyone's like, oh, that's so amazing. And it was like, I went there with the sole intention to cook because that's what I loved. I wanted to win. I didn't imagine all of the stuff after it or what that impact would be on me in terms of, I was growing up, I was quiet. I kept to myself. I was never the star of anything. And I never needed that in my life to validate me, right? But
Mm-hmm.
after coming off that show, the local celebrity type thing, you know, and being in the paper every week and people seeing you, and then getting a local baking show on TV. So when I go to Walmart, people would see me, and so it was great and all. And some people would love that.
Yeah.
For me, it was difficult. I would look at all the criticism,
Mm.
if I put on weight or if people didn't like what I was cooking or how I acted on the show. And I would read all of that. And they told me not to.
Yeah.
But you're curious, Jeanine. You're curious.
Yeah.
At 20, at
Of course.
24, you're curious. So that was part of the spiral downwards. I started becoming a
Mm-hmm.
hermit and like not wanting to go anywhere and being
Mm.
super critical of myself because everyone else was saying it, so it must have been true, right?
Yeah.
And I just started hating myself bad.
Mm.
And a lot of other things transpired personally with family and stuff like that, that really didn't help. Um, and I knew that I had a problem because I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to be here anymore because it's
Mm.
like, what did I have? I know I'm just being, it makes me sad
Yeah.
now, right? Because I
Sure.
think like, my God, how awful. But it's the honest to God's truth. I wanted to just wither away, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
So, but Bob, who I should maybe I shouldn't have said it, but he's Bob. I don't care. Nobody knows him. He's in Pennsylvania. Bob saved me because he made me see, like, even now I message him and I thank him all the time
Mm.
and he's like, he says to me, Jeanine, like, I'm gonna cry. Okay.
Mm.
He says to me, I just helped you see what I saw all along. And that was just like, you know, that was just a huge turning point for me because he just helped me find myself again.
Yeah.
I hope that
Yeah.
I hope that I answer the question because the deep pain that I felt about myself, he just helped me find it, the good
Yeah.
and what I really wanted in my life. You know, I don't
Yeah.
know that.
That's
Sorry, I was. So
no.
this is what.
This is perfect. This is real. Like that is
Yeah.
that's a perfect answer.
So this is like everyone says. Like, and this is why I sort of shy away from talking about Hell's Kitchen. I just gloss over it
Mm.
because I have to revisit sometimes those things, and I'm scared. I'm scared if people see it.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "Oh, look at the mistakes you did. You were so stupid," or you did, because I heard that, and I don't want to hear it again. I'm
Yeah.
grateful. You know what I mean? So that's why I gloss over it.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to receive it more and just be like, those things I did, and that doesn't define me. That doesn't, it's part of my story,
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does beautifully, and I really appreciate that you shared
Yeah,
that and you opened up
because
about
I
that.
don't, Jeanine, and this is
I
gonna
know.
go public, and now I'm like terrified.
Well, if you want me to edit it out, I will. But
No,
I
no, no,
really
no. I,
think
I,
it's
I, I signed up for this. Let's do it. It's all good because it might help somebody. Do you know what I mean?
yes,
Everybody has
yes,
shit that goes sideways on God. Like, this is what
yeah.
it is.
And that, yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say. That it is so helpful um, for people to hear your story and for us to hear other people's stories, right? And that validation that people we go through stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't actually shared. I had the dark days of October, as I call it. So
Oh,
yeah, I did a really great job for a lot of years, kind of pushing things to the side, and which is interesting because I talk a lot, and you'd think that and like I'm hearing my boyfriend go like, "Oh, you over process like a lot," which is true. It's who I am.
I mean,
Uh, you think like I get a lot of this. Why do you think so much? Like, it's just who I am. But so for a lot of years, I was in a 20-year marriage
yeah,
that had some really amazing times. We loved each other and we have beautiful children. And then it just became unhealthy for both of us, really. And that was a really difficult decision. And I don't go into all the details out of respect for him and my children.
yes,
I
yeah,
won't talk about it publicly, but um, But I did decide to leave that 20-year marriage, and it was the hardest decision of my life, and also one that I knew without a doubt needed to happen to give, my children the best stability that they could have. And I knew that for him it would be great too. And I think he'd probably agree right now. He's seems very happy. And so am I. My point being this: at 52, like shit gets layered, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, without using like clinical terms, there was a lot of layers to my onion that started very young and that
Yeah.
compounded. And all of those stories that you tell yourself, that you don't even know that you're telling. Like when I say the stories that we tell ourselves, I'm not talking about these conscious stories that we say. I'm talking about these underlying belief systems that you pick up, most of them before you're 8 years old. And then they're compounded through your life as you're, viewing the world through those lenses and looking for validation to confirm them. And so I survived for a lot of years with a lot of these stories. And it took me several years post divorce, a lot of work, and then
Yeah.
a crash of hormones in perimenopause that I had no idea would be like this. Like I'm looking for signs of perimenopause. Like full disclosure, I had a hysterectomy. So like it's anyone's guess when my ovaries were going to just start to wilt.
Yeah.
And but it's happening. So like literally my gynecologist was like, yeah, I mean, like, good luck. We could test your hormones all the time, or you could just sort of wait and see. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, I had a massive like dump of hormones and all in a very short period of time. And it triggered a level of anxiety that I've never experienced in my life. I never thought I was anxious. Now I might like maybe check back with some people who've known me for a lot of years and they might be like, we saw signs. There's a lot of ways that I move through the world, like a lot of questioning, a lot of self-reflection, that sort of stuff that probably was, not probably, was very clearly a level of anxiety. But this period in my life was like, holy shit, the doors are open. The dark days of October hit. And I have never felt so confused and low and anxious ever in my life. And I
Yeah.
kept saying, I talked to my mom and dad a lot about it, particularly my mom. And I was like, I lost a son. I lost my son and I didn't feel this hopeless, right? Like, so I'm kind of comparing everything to the loss of Max because there's nothing worse than losing a
Right.
child. I was in a different place and was able to handle it differently, and I had different everything. But here I am, in my 50s, not even nothing in particular happening, and feeling like I don't even know which way is up. Like panic attacks. I've never had a panic attack. It was awful. So
Was
it just,
this was recent?
you
Like
know, it
last
was.
October?
It was a couple years. It was 2 years ago. Yeah,
Okay.
it was not
Okay.
far away.
Okay.
And I remember going in and thinking, like, this has got to be hormonal. Like, I could not wrap my head around
Oh.
what else it could be. So I go into my gynecologist and I was like, I don't know what the hell's happening. And she took one look at me and she's like, oh, yeah, no, you got like, she took one look at me and talked to me. And she's like, you've got no progesterone. Your cortisol levels are out of the. And so, like, I had cortisol spikes happening all the time. Now, the interesting part of this, Jen, is like, apparently I've been living in a high state of fight or flight for many, 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 many years.
Mm.
And I didn't know it. That's just sort of became my new normal. So,
Yeah.
and I'm going in a lot more than I expected here, but like when you realize that you've been driving like this for a lot of years, just trying to hold shit together,
Yeah.
and then you don't have to anymore. And there are a lot of beautiful changes in my life. My kids were older. I met this amazing man who years after I divorced, who showed me a very different way of loving that I thought was really beautiful. Um, I guess I just, all that kind of constellation just threw
It
me.
hit you all at once. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So
Do you
I
think
did
like
really
perhaps
talk
you
too
didn't
much.
no, no, no. Do you think that you perhaps like you didn't process the stuff when you were going through it as much as you could, so it just all like came to you and at one
100%.
time, right? Oh,
Yeah. And I
I
think
know.
like literally things would come up and I'd be like, I think I already dealt with this. But no, I think that you can process the shit out of something and then you can be in a different place in your life and you get to process it a little bit deeper. So I was
Yeah.
processing
Yes.
like
Hmm.
feelings of, but so I was abused by my babysitter's boyfriend when I was 3 years old. And I was dealing with that again. Like, that's, yeah, I thought I had done it. That was done and dusted years and years and years and years ago. But like, just because it's all like a familiar smell, really, like this thread that kind of tapped into feelings of self worth and trusting myself, being able to say clear boundaries to things like that. So, I mean, I was three, for God's sakes. Cognitively, I know, you know, but yeah. So I think you just revisit, you
Traumatizing
revisit a lot of
nonetheless,
stuff.
though, Jeanine.
Well,
Traumatizing.
100%. Yeah. And you just like, you access things at different layers with different tools. And yeah, it was a shit show for a while, but I had an amazing therapist too.
See?
Yeah. Yeah.
See?
It's really scary though. Like, I don't know if you mind talking about this, and I can
No,
really clearly edit this part out, but
it's okay. Yeah.
I was really shocked at how seeing things through it. And thankfully, it was a short period of time. I got my hormones back, adjusted fairly quickly, and I did a lot of work with a therapist because obviously the stuff that was coming up was stuff that I needed to deal with. But
Yeah.
fear, it was fear. Everything was
Mhm.
fear of lack of control, fear of not knowing when to say, no to not no to somebody, but like, do I do this? Should I be doing my business? That was a huge one. Like, I've got a
Mm.
lot of issues around security and feeling safe. So all of that was coming up again like a house fire. And I hear now out of it, I'm like, wow, that was rough. I don't see anything the way I saw that things then. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
even when I think about how I perceived things in that moment, I know that a lot of players in there, a lot of emotional, and hormonal distress, but like, I don't see it the same way now.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, I think it's important to say that, like, for somebody who's going through a dark time,
Mm.
like, to hang in there. I couldn't imagine that it was gonna, I felt like I had trees in front of my
Oh,
eyes. Like, I
yeah.
could not see the forest. I
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
see.
I
And
mean,
it's
you
so
have
different.
tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I felt complete despair. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like that. I honestly felt that if I withered away, no one would care. It
Yeah.
wouldn't mean anything. And I wasn't, and I had a little girl then, like, but I would never do anything because she was little. Like, I would never do
Yeah.
that to her. But she was probably my saving grace. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, I think about that now. It's a dark, it can be very lonely, but there are people who care,
Yeah.
and you hang on to that, to those little things. And I remember just sitting in therapy, just like with my head down and just like just sitting there crying. And you just want somebody to listen to you, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that that's why it's so important. Like, when you get there and you're terrified to share your feelings because you think to yourself, I have to explain my whole blessed story to this person. Oh my God, how exhausting. You're already mentally exhausted, right?
Right.
I don't
Right.
want to sit here and tell this person my whole, you know what I mean? And I ain't gonna lie, like, it took me like 3 therapists to find Bob. Like,
Yeah.
you again, intuition, right? I don't know that and then as
Mm-hmm.
soon as Bob hit, I'm like, I knew this guy was for me. So you have to dig deep and somehow get over the hump and just sit there if you really like you feel it in your gut. It's hard though. That's hard. It's very hard.
It
Yeah.
is hard. It is hard. I had one rule for myself, even though, like, feeling really, really low. And it was, I knew that there were many people in my life, but there were three people I chose to listen to more than I listened to myself, because that was not a time that I was going to try to, like, I did tap into my intuition a lot.
Mm.
However, fear was overriding it a lot, a lot.
Yeah.
So for me, when I get in that state of fear, it clouds my intuition. So that I think I said in the book, when the base emotion is fear, your intuition is clouded. That is, it's very common, and it can be, fear and intuition can be confused. So understanding how to read that is a whole other conversation. But
Yeah.
I knew that, like, if I felt like the trees were yellow and, so and so said, nope, they're green, I could be like, you're right. I know you're right, because I know I'm not seeing things clearly right now. And I think that was just another important part, to know who is in your toolbox, who you can trust in times of a real challenge too. So anyway, that was, yeah. Thank you for talking about that. And
Listen, Jeanine,
now I'm feeling the same way. Like, oh, we just talked about a lot of stuff. this shit's about to go live.
listen. Jeanine, it's more important now than ever. And
Yeah.
where I came from, people didn't believe in therapy, and like people didn't, like when I say growing up, family, and like they're like, oh, come on, you're stronger than that. Like it also meant that
Yeah.
you were weak if you went to therapy, you know?
Yes.
But again, I
Yeah.
was the delicate flower, no, I needed that help, So,
Yeah.
and
I
I'm
did.
so grateful for it because it saved me. So,
Yeah. And there's tools that you bring into all aspects of your life too, which is amazing. I appreciate you so much. Thank
I
you.
love you.
Like, I could keep talking, but I want to be respectful of your time, and I love you dearly. Thank you so much for
Yes.
sharing all this.
I hope it was okay, Jeanine.
It was amazing. You're
Was
amazing.
it?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I hope that you got some good things, and I hope you can edit it correctly.
I'm not editing it at all. Not even this
Stop.
part.
Listen, I
I'm
love
not.
you. And I just want to tell, like, you put this in the thing. Everybody
Okay, hold
needs
on a second to say. What were you saying? I cut you
No,
off.
I really think, and I've blasted this on my social media, and I mean it from the depths of my heart. Like, if you are going through like a rough time, or you just, her book is funny. Janine's book is funny. It is insightful. It gives you a ton of great advice. Like, it is a good book, and it's a short and easy read. I have to say it, Jeanine. I have to say it
Thanks.
because
Thank you.
it's excellent. So you all need to go
Thanks,
purchase it on the Amazon. So
purchase it on the Amazon. Yes, I
purchase
love
it on the
that. There'll be a
Amazon.
link in the bio.
Well, listen, I love you, Jeanine. Thanks for having
I love
me.
you too. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for joining. Hope you enjoyed it, and you'll join us again next time. You can reach my guests through the links in the comments below, and you can always find me at JanineTripodi.com, on Instagram as Jeanine Tripodi, and on Facebook and YouTube as Jeanine Tripodi Coaching. If you prefer to watch this video, jump on that YouTube channel, Jeanine Tripodi Coaching. Have a great day.